Hello everyone, this is Kurlam, and today we're going to be taking a look at some tips and tricks when it comes to involving your playthrough within Fire Emblem Engage. Today we're going to be looking at 4 different staves and why they're very pivotal when it comes to saving turns within low turn count, as well as even just for regular efficiency play. If you're struggling with a certain map, you can use these tips and tricks to probably help you get out of a jam and basically get you through the map a lot quicker with less of a headache. So today, how we're going to demonstrate this is we're going to be using Hortensia. Hortensia also has a stat, Micaiah, for the Emblem. And then, of course, there are a few things that are pretty good with Hortensia in mind. We have Big Personality, which a healing staff gains range +1. And then we also get World Tree, where when a unit uses a staff, they may not consume a use, which is triggered by their dexterity. There's also Divine Pulse, which you can inherit from Byleth. This can help with Entrap in particular, and also with a couple other staves like Freeze. But basically what it happens is that it may turn a missed attack into a hit, where the trigger is basically 30%. There is also Divine Pulse Plus, and the chance can increase with higher luck. So, how we're going to look at this today is we're going to start with Warp in particular. Warp is pretty straightforward under normal circumstances. However, when it comes with Micaiah, it gets a little bit different. So let's just go ahead and look at it normally, where Warp has a range of 1 to 5, and basically you just choose any adjacent ally and place them anywhere that is not occupied and that they can traverse on. Because keep in mind that you can't put something like, say, Citrine or Marin on this bulwark here, because they cannot fly and it's only traversable by flyers. Now, for the Micaiah portion of it, we're going to use Citrine here as an example. Micaiah also has a really nice skill where basically Staves staff range is increased. This is thanks to Augment, which grants staff range +5 and area effect +1. Now, the area plus effect +1 is significant because what it can do is basically take Warp and make it into an AoE. Now, notice that it will not warp Hortensia in mine. It will only warp the 4 units that are basically in front of this. However, as you can see, we can put pretty mad distance here. For now, let's just go ahead and warp them right here. Next, we'll go ahead and take a look at Rewarp. Rewarp is a little different. Rewarp basically takes the user and warps them to another space. So long as it's not occupied and the person can traverse to it. With Micaiah, though, it basically becomes an AoE warp, where it also takes the warp user with them. So as you can see, we can do Rewarp here. And we can move, we'll just say roughly right here for now. And not only did we take Hortensia, we also have Seedall, we have Citrine, and we have Kagetsu with us.
The choice is yours.
The cool thing is that if you dance again, like so, you can also do it to where you can rewarp again and take the entire party with you. This is especially useful when you have something like Byleth.
Allow me.
Because let's just say we have Kagetsu attack here. And then we just remove him here thanks to Cantor, which was a skill that we inherited. And then we can Goddess Dance and basically refresh everyone. This technically includes Hortensia, but what we can do instead wait, one. Is we can dance here, like so. Rewarp again. You could also do a warp as a combination. You just need Canter. And this time what I'm going to do is put Hortensia down here. And then with the Celica user, in this case it's Ivy since she has extended range, I can basically attack this here. And I get a little more out of the AoE dance. So once we use Byleth, now we can dance 3 different units, with one of them being Celica in particular. It's important to note that Celica is pretty good for stuff like this, just because that there's a lot of range. And thanks to Lindworm, which is Ivy's personal class, you could warp quite a distance, up to 15 tiles, which is pretty significant to do. Especially if you could combine it with something like Draconic Hex, for example, which is rather difficult to do in normal playthroughs, but something that is technically possible with DLC because you get SP books. Basically, you have a unit that can warp in, basically chip a boss, and then debuff them in the process. So now we've looked over at Rewarp a bit, so let's talk about Rescue. Rescue actually has like a couple things that we need to talk about. First off, there is a slight difference when it comes to Rescue now. Rescue now will rescue from, I believe it's the right-hand side. At least it is in this map. And for the most part, it's been pretty consistent on doing that. Now, if there's something like this bulwark here, which is blocking the way, it will instead rescue them in a different direction. So instead of going right, since they can't go to that, it'll go down. Basically, you could use terrain to manipulate things. Now, where this also comes into play is that Hortensia, with Micaiah, can do an AoE rescue, like so. This could rescue up to 5 different units, and basically this also means that Hortensia doesn't have to be part of the squad. They'll basically rescue right in front of her, but keep in mind that one of those rescue tiles is usually preoccupied with her. So they will slightly shift things when it comes to positioning. As you can see here, Citrine has moved 1 space up. So it's just some things that you have to keep in mind when you're using rescue. But what you could do, basically, with stuff like this, is that you can continuously do a rescue chain. If you needed to for some reason. Like so. Again, just bear in mind that the person that is basically on the leftmost tile in this case is going to be moved to a different position. Likely it's going to be down, but they could also be moved up and to the left depending on anything that's being obstructed. Finally, let's talk about Entrap. Entrap is basically a status stave. And what it will do is that it will attempt to pull an enemy that is not with a skill that has anchor on it. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and entrap, we'll just say this particular berserker here. And they'll move forward right in front of me. What makes Entrap really good though, is especially when you combine it with Micaiah, for example, and you need to do multiple enemies at once. Or if you just need the extra range. So basically, now we can entrap everyone here in this AoE. This can be useful in some paralogs that basically come through in the map. Then,
Lovely scene.
now that they're closer, even though we don't need to with Sigurd, for example, we can basically run through them with Override. And it's a lot easier for everyone else around me to basically engage onto these enemies. Collision is definitely the one thing that you'll have to keep in mind when it comes to using Hortensia and Micaiah. Or at least Micaiah in general and using any of the staves. Thing is that when you're using AoE, especially, there's going to be a few things that get a little weird when it comes to rescuing or even warping.
Let's go.
Let's use this for an example. Let's go ahead and reposition Hortensia a couple times here. And we'll just basically set it up so that we have something to basically warp. We'll go ahead and Violet Dance here just so that we have something else to kind of like demonstrate with it. So let's say that we do a rescue right here. So if you notice, there's going to be Kagetsu, who's going to be one down, who's going to be affected. And then there's also going to be Chloe, who's going to be affected because Hortensia is basically to her left. So it will slightly shift things like so. Furthermore, if we go one step further, and we go even further beyond, like right here, you're going to notice a lot of weird things going on with this particular rescue chain because now we have more enemies that basically are clumped together. See for yourself what you could do as far as with these tips and tricks. Anyway, this has been Colonel M. Thank you for watching.